Welcome to the Way to Wellness, where we are finding balance season by season. I'm Selina and I welcome you into this space today to hopefully get an additional tool and a very important tool to helping you create the space and find your own way about the journey to your wellness. And today I'm excited because in the studio I have Rhonda Longo, who is a certified breathwork practitioner. She also combines that with some sound healing, but we're going to focus on breathwork today. And Rhonda, thanks for being here with us. This is an amazing experience to share. We've been talking about tools and the ways that life impacts us, the roles, the dynamic changes that really kind of knock us off kilter because of our past experiences, some of our perceptions and expectations, and how that really comes to resonate in our hearts with getting where we want to be. It's so difficult. We spend our life thinking about where others want us to be, where we should be, what life tells us to do. And I think we find ourselves further and further away from who we actually are. And so I'm hoping today you and I will be able to share a simple practice that doesn't cost anything, right? It doesn't really take a lot of time, and it helps us regain our center, which I'm super excited about because it's just like another added layer and bonus. So before we get started on the science and the why behind you would practice breath, why you would do breath work, can you tell me, Rhonda, what brought you to doing this as a practitioner?
Well, so I was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and constantly had sore muscles, so I started to get into ice baths, and I had a really, really hard time with the cold water. And then I discovered Wim Hof breathing, and I was astounded at the difference between my experience with the ice water before and after practicing breath work, and I thought, wow, this is powerful. If I'm seeing this much of a difference in just a couple of minutes of breathing and my tolerance of that cold water, there is something here. So that kind of led me down a path to explore pranayama and other types of breath work, and the impact that I've seen from just even starting with a small practice really elevated my confidence, my ability to self-regulate, but also gave me tools that I did not previously have that I have employed just about every day.
Yeah, and you know, I think you would agree with me. One of the things that we battle as women, right, is our own confidence. And a lot of that is this noise that we are constantly living with. The cell phones, the social media, even in today's world, the size that we are, the things that we have, the roles that we play, how people talk about us. And when I was thinking about us getting together, I can really testify to the fact that finding center in all of that noise has been an amazing part of my own journey, because you can quickly get lost and the many titles and labels of today: imposter syndrome, am I good enough, do I have all the qualifications? So I love that you talk about confidence, because breath work impacts, of course, the physical being. I remember in my nursing school, I was with a gentleman who was actually getting genital warts removed. His blood pressure was like 248 over 116, right? Which is like cardiac blood pressure. And I don't know, this was long before I even went into all of the studying that I have been doing. And I don't know, I'm just going to say, inner being knew, and I talked to him and I had him breathe with me. I did the 4-7-8 breathing. And it was amazing that within 10 minutes, that very uncontrolled blood pressure was now 152 over 86. And so out of the zone. And I think when we get into this practice today, when we talk to people about the ways in which to do it, even the upregulating, we have so many great tools within ourselves.
Absolutely.
To do what we can do for our own health, and we don't even realize it, you know? And so what is one of the physical changes, or maybe there are more, what are the many physical changes that you have seen in your practice personally?
So for me, the biggest most impactful thing that breathwork has done for me is it's created space between the stimulus and the response, right? It's giving me the opportunity to go inside instead of being reactive. I'm being a little bit more proactive about the changes that go. So, for example, if I'm experiencing stress, my heart rate's going to go up, my blood pressure is going to go up, I may sweat, my breath gets shallow, I get tense, my muscles tighten. There's a lot of physical things that occur when you experience stress. And so for me, I was riddled with anxiety. I was my own worst critic, and I was constantly pulverizing myself in my head. Every little thing that I did wasn't good enough. I should have done this. And that put me in a constant state of fight or flight. So with the breath work, I was able to put a little buffer between what's actually happening and how I'm going to choose to respond to it. And one of the things that I love most about it is it kind of takes you out of your headspace a little bit, because it gives you something different to focus on. Breathwork practice does not have to be perfect, but just giving your mind something different to focus on. It's a little bit of a distraction, but it also will stimulate your vagus nerve, which has a huge role in most of our bodily functions.
Right.
So the breath work, the stimulating the vagus nerve, not only helped my body to kind of relax and calm down, but it gave my mind that quiet space that I needed to really sit back and look at the situation for what it actually is. Reframe it even. It gave me the space to do that.
It's amazing. Some people don't even realize, in the face of pain, back pain, neck pain, headaches, particularly, I think you would agree, right? That simply opening up that channel and opening up the body and taking that breath through the body can reduce those levels of responses that we're feeling. So it isn't just all about being anxious, right? Or always stressed. Because I think there are a lot of people out there who go, oh, I don't need that breath work because I got it all together. I think they don't really get that there's also a big component in energy, right? Mental clarity, but also a reduction in pain. One of the things I love the most is that when I first started my coaching career, I had a gentleman, a young kid, and his coach had changed. He was great at baseball. And his coach had changed, and he couldn't hit the ball. He couldn't hit the ball anymore. He just didn't have a connection with the coach, and he kind of had lost his ability, and he couldn't believe it, because part of his long-term plan, right, Rhonda, was to go to college for sports and to get some money. And so when we started meeting together, the one simple thing that I gave him was to put his tongue on the roof of his mouth and to take a good breath through his nose and blow out through his mouth, and that tongue point to find his center. And now, not only had he went to college, but he graduated. There are many things that I'm hoping our audience is going to hear us say, and little bits and pieces. They're going to say, oh, maybe I should get to trying it, right? What do you think is the biggest factor for individuals to avoid using what we inherently have as a tool that doesn't cost us anything? Like when you teach people breath work, what are some of the excuses, right? And I'm sorry to say that because that's such a negative word, but obstacles seems like something you have to climb over. Excuses are something we can choose to shift off. So I'm going to say excuses anyway. What are some of the excuses you get?
Well, a lot of it is time, right? I think that's probably the number one factor for most people, and rightfully so. When we look at how scheduled we are and how many things demand our attention on a daily basis, it can feel overwhelming to add something to that. So one of the things that I like to offer in that space is that you don't need a substantial amount of time to notice an impact with breath work. Really, that shifting of your attention, your focus, and putting it inward, you can actually notice results in a matter of minutes versus, going to, go to get a massage. It could be an hour, but it can be quick. It does not have to be a regimented thing in order to receive the benefits of the breath work.
I love that. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that it, too, just like the physical that we talk about, the mental and the confidence, digestion.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
The diaphragm muscle. I went to, total disclosure, pelvic floor therapy, because welcome to the 50s where everything falls out, right? And I went to pelvic floor with Cheryl Curtis, incredible practitioner, and can't wait to have her on future shows. And she worked the diaphragm. And we did pelvic floor therapy, and we did some breath work because that's part of pelvic floor therapy. And I went home, no joke, right? And maybe a little X-rated, but no joke. I went home and I got out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, wow, my hourglass, what happened? Like I had this shape that I haven't had probably for the last year into my menopausal years. And it was so crazy. And my stomach felt amazing when I felt like I was digesting food, and so it was so about it. And I reached out, I'm like, Cheryl, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about the pelvic floor muscles and the diaphragm, because I study it and I had learned it, but I experienced it. And isn't it something that, I mean, you turn on Instagram and your cortisol is eating your hips and your pelvic lymphatic flow is congested, and your testosterone for men, your testosterone is low, so you got to take a supplement. We have all this nonsense, and I will call it nonsense very openly, coming at us, right? Again, simple little tool.
Yeah.
So connected.
Yeah.
Our diaphragm has everything to do with circulation and energy and digestion and mental clarity.
Yes.
But over the years, we have become such shallow nose breathers.
Yes.
And as a result, especially for women who get into menopausal years, we start to think that we're having heart attacks, because the intercostal muscles, they give us some pain. We get some epigastric or right at diaphragm pain in the middle of the night, and we get, acid reducing medicines because the doctor dismisses it and says, oh, you have acid reflux. When in essence, it's these muscles that are in between our ribs. It's the way we're processing our fluids, and it has everything to do with the limited use of our diaphragm, which is a muscle.
Yes.
So let's talk technique.
Yes. So when you're inhaling, most people just tend to do it without thinking, right? So our baseline breath tends to be with our chest, unless you, of course, have tuned in and figured out a better way to do it. But most people, when they breathe, they notice it's your chest that rises and falls. But actually, there is much more benefit to breathing deeply within the diaphragm. The digestion part is a huge one of that. But also, when you're breathing into your chest, you don't have as much room to expand. The diaphragm has more room. It gives you the ability to take in, I think, a little more oxygen. And then you can roll it up into your chest and take in even more oxygen. So a lot of people are not familiar with diaphragmatic breathing or even know how to go about doing that. And one of the little tips that I like to impart is think about it. So when you inhale, your belly will fill up like a balloon. When you exhale, try sucking your stomach back in towards your spine, which creates that vacuum. Next time you inhale, your stomach will automatically kind of do that expansion because you've contracted it. So just kind of to get the sensation in the right place, I always, have them, well, as you exhale, breathe stuck that stomach back in towards the spine to kind of create the familiarity with which muscles you're kind of moving to get that full breath.
Let's practice it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So let's just practice, because here's why, right? I think what happens when we get a new tool or we get a new technique, and it's kind of like when we stepped off and we talked about in the beginning, you asked me what I wanted to do with this limited series. And the whole idea is to get people to stop thinking that it's as easy as making a decision and doing it. There's a lot between making the decision to change or to improve or to set a goal and actually seeing that through. And it has everything to do with recognizing all of the factors that play a role in what happens between A and B, right? There's a whole alphabet. So, and that's what we're talking about, right? So Rhonda, let's go ahead and let's just take our viewers through, and remember that some people will only be listening. And so we want to be very descriptive, but let's have them practice, because the key really to any breath work is first understanding how to correct a long-standing breathing problem.
Yes.
So let's do it.
Yes. All right. So I like to instruct to breathe in through the nose. The nose has a natural filtration system, and also it kind of warms the air as it goes in, a little bit easier on the system. So I like to lead with inhale through the nose, and we can go exhale through the mouth, and we're just going to intentionally inhale, but then as we exhale, just kind of let the air fall from your, just to kind of fall out. So
let's sit, let's get grounded, right? So we want to be grounded. We want both feet on the floor.
Yes.
That's really important. Some people may be laying down, and if you're listening to the podcast in the car, please don't try this. Rewatch it later when you're there, because sometimes when you start doing the breath work, you can get a little dizzy, and that is okay.
Yes.
It's just because you haven't been breathing this way. So, and I don't know about you, Rhonda, but I love to have people place their hands right on their bellies, because you're going to be talking about bringing that air in. So let's go ahead and relax our shoulders.
Yep, and you want to make sure you have a nice straight spine so that your body is in alignment. I also like to invite people to put a hand on their chest to kind of monitor what is actually happening and where it's happening. So, so we want to focus on the belly expanding. So this hand should be coming out. You shouldn't feel much movement with this one. So just for the diaphragmatic breathing, we're going to, as you inhale, imagine a balloon in your belly just filling up, kind of almost pushing your belly out. And me and my brothers used to pretend that we were pregnant as children. And so that's kind of one of the things that I think about. I don't know why. We would push our bellies out as far as we possibly could. So that's kind of the gist of it. Is you're kind of, at first it feels very unnatural, but you're going to breathe in through the nose, expanding that belly out and just letting it fall. And then just inhale again, feeling that belly expand, and then the exhale. And that's really as simple as it is you're really just focusing that air down. There are different breathwork techniques where you can kind of string together the diaphragmatic breathing and then bring it up into the chest. But for simplicity's sake, that just focus on that diaphragm for the first step, because that's really the foundation, the beginning. So
absolutely, I love it. And I think one of the things you'll be sharing with us is the upregulating.
Yes.
I still kind of want to stay focused on down-regulating breath and calming breath. When you are doing the sound healing, how important is it to kind of check in with body first? Like, one of the reasons why we quit doing things is because we don't see that immediate gratification. Oh, I felt completely different. What do you generally tell individuals when they're starting breath work to check in with before they put the practice in, that gives them a good evaluation tool of whether or not it's happening?
So I always invite folks to check in with their body first, kind of start with a body scan. One of the things that I like to have them do is notice if there's any tension, any muscles that are tightened, any pain, any discomfort, any unease, anything in the body that you're picking up on. Just to kind of take an inventory, right? We're not looking to change things immediately, but just kind of a baseline. Where are you right now? And that gives you the opportunity to take notice of things that you sometimes might not. When we're going about our day to day, we're not necessarily thinking like, oh, my shoulders feel tense, or, oh, you know, I've got a little bit of discomfort in my hip, unless it becomes like problematic, right? But just the slight little, like little nuances that we experience sometimes go just completely unchecked. So just kind of checking in with your body, noticing any sensations, any tension, anything that you might be holding in. And then as we go through the breathwork practice afterwards, I'm often like, all right, let's check in again, let's compare, let's see, do you notice a difference? Have you felt a release? Have you, you know, so it kind of gives folks an idea of what the breath has done for them in particular that day.
I love that. And I would just add on from a coaching standpoint for individuals who are going to put this practice in. If they're only going to start in this short period of time, make some notes. You know, at the end of your calendar day, when you did the breath work, what had triggered you to put that into action? Because sometimes we need a good excuse to put it to practice. And how did you feel after? Because so quickly can we dismiss the benefits or kind of play with our mind a little bit and say, really didn't make a difference, and then let it go. Because sometimes, because my industry particularly has sold this large scale, buy the supplements, pay for the programs, you don't have the ability to heal yourself, we can quickly talk ourselves out of tools that are fully accessible and free. I keep saying that. Simply because of that marketing, right?
Yeah. And if it seems too simple to be true,
right?
You know, it might just be. That's
definitely.
Yeah, definitely another hurdle too. It is, you know, just being willing to try that and put yourself in something that you're unfamiliar with. You know, a lot of times I think that is another hang up that people have, is it's not comfortable or natural feeling at first, and so maybe it's not for me, you know. So just giving it a chance and allowing your body to fall into that rhythm, allowing it to meet you where you are, and just kind of turning to it, not only when you're needing it, but just as a regular practice, because just like anything else, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes as a part of a response system. So, you know, a lot like when I trained jiu-jitsu, I taught a women's self-defense class, and I told the women, I can teach you these techniques all day long, but if you don't practice them, you're not going to recall it in a stressful situation. So it's that repetition, just, you know, sticking with it, giving it, you know, it doesn't have to be an hour a day, just a quick 5 minutes, you know, just taking that time to rehearse, to practice, and to put it in your toolbox so that it's readily available when you do need it.
So you do your classes for an hour. I do have a question for you, because I, as a coach, tell everybody something that I don't practice very well is that an hour is less than 1% of your day that you're giving to yourself, right? And why are we not? It's amazing when I talk to women and women whose children have left the home or husband has passed. And I say to them, well, why don't you cook? And they're like, well, I have no one to cook for. And I'm like, okay, well, what about you? You know? But why do you choose to make that regular practice available for an hour? Is there something with that time frame? Is it simply to give that hour of space to ourselves? I know you're going to teach us, and we're going to get to that very shortly, a very quick practice. And you say 10 minutes is enough, 5 minutes is enough. But why do you focus on that hour?
So with the hour, I like to allow enough space for people to arrive, right? So I don't want to just have people walk in the door and boom, we're jumping right into breath work, because it does take an amount of presence with yourself, right? So I like to give people enough time to come in, to arrive, to notice, to do that inventory, to check in. And then we do breath work for about 20 minutes during the session, 25 minutes, depending on the techniques that we have that day. And then I follow that with the sound bath after, and that really kind of deepens that relaxation state. So once we get there with the breath work, you know, we've arrived, we've calmed our nervous system, we've relaxed, and then the sound bath gives you the opportunity to just enjoy that state of being, and it gives the mind something to focus on, to anchor to, right? So you're not just letting those thoughts from the day creep back in. You're listening to the sound and noticing, you know, the sounds around you, and so it kind of just gives you a little bit more time to enjoy that space with yourself.
Perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So how are we doing? Good.
Yep.
Where are we time-wise?
24 minutes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go into the practice,
Yeah.
and then we're going to talk about upregulating.
Okay.
So you want to do the down-regulating breath first?
Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Does that sound like a good plan?
I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds like a great plan.
Are we flowing well?
Yeah, we're doing great. It was really good.
I love him.
Informative.
So you want to do the down-regulating breath work first?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so we'll go into the practice and then come back out and talk.
Yep.
more. Okay.
We're going to come back out and talk, and we're going to talk about upregulating because some people need that.
I think most people could use a dose of that.
Was the breathing you just did down regulating?
It was,
Yeah.
but the breathing she did was more focused on
How to
engaging
breathe.
the diaphragm so that she can refer back to that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Perfect?
Yeah.
Okay. So Rhonda, now that we've talked about it and we've given the demonstration of the diaphragmatic breathing, which is an important part of breath work.
Yes.
But I want to encourage the audience, as I'm sure you will. This is progression. This is not perfection.
Exactly. Yes.
So even if it feels awkward, just stick with it. Listen, replay the audio part, even maybe record what we're about to share, and just stick with that piece. Because what I feel like is we can really get caught up in the technicality.
Yes.
I think just sitting back
Yeah.
makes a huge difference.
Even one deep intentional breath can begin to shift your state. So it is not about perfection. You're absolutely right. You don't have to get the counts right. You don't have to be on rhythm. It's really more about the intentionality with your inhale and your exhale, because that's really where the magic is, right? So for down-regulating breath work, we're really focused on that slow exhalation, making sure that we're giving our body enough opportunity to kind of absorb the oxygen that we have, and really focusing on slowing things down, right? You can really affect your heart rate just by controlling your breath. So with the down-regulating breath work, I always tend to focus on those slow exhales. So I would love to walk you through a technique. Very simple. So there's so many different techniques out there. You mentioned the 4-7-8 breathing. That's one of my favorites. We're going to do something even more simpler than that. So with the 4-7-8 breathing that Selina was mentioning, you inhale for a count of 4, you hold that breath in for a count of 7, and then you slowly exhale for a count of 8. And to make this even more simple for those listening along, we're going to do a 2-step process, just an inhale and an exhale. So we're going to inhale for a count of 4. And we're going to really slowly draw that exhale out to a count of 8. So it's just a inhale for 4, exhale for 8. And this is beautiful because you don't have to really think about it, right? And even if you don't get that 4 count and that 8 count, it's the slow, intentional exhale that really delivers the benefits. So.
And a lot of people don't recognize this, but from a medical standpoint, it is more important to get that long exhale than to get that oxygen in, because that is mental and physical cleansing. Everybody thinks that taking that breath in, Rhonda, is the most important. And don't get me wrong, it's important to breathe, right? It's life-sustaining. However, that exhale, that letting it go and coming out, that's where all the good stuff's coming. That's where you're connecting to yourself physically and mentally, and even sometimes spiritually. So that 4 in and 8 out, if you get caught up in the numbers, just twice as long out as in.
Just keep that exhale slow and steady.
Those A type of people who are like, oh, she said 4, oh, she said 8.
Right.
No, let's just take a breath in as long as you can, and take a breath out as long as you can. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so I like to count the first couple just to get the rhythm established, to give people kind of a stake in the ground, if you will. But then after that, I like people to kind of just take their own pace with it and adjust it as needed, because some people have a little bit more difficulty with deep breaths or slower exhales. So definitely want to meet yourself where you're at, and this, shouldn't be uncomfortable or cause you pain or discomfort or even more anxiety. So that is not the goal here. Perfection is not the key. So we're going to go ahead and begin again with that diaphragmatic breathing that we were just talking about, deep into the belly, expanding that in through the nose, and then just letting it kind of fall out of the mouth nice and slow. And a good slow exhale, I just think it feels so good, right? It's like I'm taking charge here. I'm letting it go, like a woo-saw moment, right?
Love it.
So we're gonna go ahead and breathe in for a count of 4. So it's inhale, 2, 3, 4, expanding that belly, and then slow exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, and then release. Do 2 more rounds. Inhale and exhale. One more deep breath into that diaphragm, feeling that belly expand. And exhale, allowing it to fall out. And just like that, we've done breath work.
That's amazing. Actually, you know, I felt like my shoulders just completely cut the strings to my ears in that. And you know, it's so crazy. You don't even know you're holding your tension. So what I love about you saying is check in with yourself. When I had to close my eyes because I couldn't look at you, that would be very distracting, and I didn't care what I looked like.
I closed mine too, if it makes you feel better.
Yeah. But it just allows that. It allows you to really feel yourself grounding.
Mm-hmm. And also just slowing down in general, right? So
Yeah.
when we're breathing, going about our day, but when you're really slowing down, for me, it slows everything down. And I'm just like, okay, here we are. We're here now.
I love including breath work in the practice. Every day I start by going out and looking up at the sky because it reminds me in my own head of how small I am, right? And all those problems that I start the day with kind of get into shape. But I really do love breath work with grounding in the grass barefoot. You want to talk to that a little bit?
Yes, so I am a barefoot girly. You will catch me in the summertime pretty much without shoes unless I have to go to the store. That's about it. But I absolutely love the benefits of grounding are just amazing. Instantaneous, you know, your feet on the grass, just discharging all of those ions and just really like neutralizing your sense of being. So that along with the breath work, so you're not only centering with yourself, but you're kind of centering with nature, right? You're centering with the universe. You're really creating a holistic basket of just being present and just allowing yourself to really be grounded, not only literally, right, with your feet on the earth, but also grounding within, right, kind of coming back to your center. So
quieting down the noise.
Exactly.
If we could just get the noise quieted, we can get it done. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's like if everybody would just get out of my way, I can get it done.
Right.
But we are in our own way most of the time.
100%. And it all stems from what we're thinking most of the time, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's just incredible. So thank you for that practice. And I love how we just went through 4 breaths and that was it.
Yeah. And so, and you know, you can do this sitting in traffic, whatever, but even if you just notice yourself picking up a little tension or reacting, just what we did there, a few simple breaths can really bring you back into the moment and say, wait a minute, okay,
Yeah,
I got this.
I got this.
I got this.
So when someone comes up to you and says, hey, can you do one more thing? And you really feel bad about saying no, and you feel compelled to prove yourself, here's the challenge. I want everybody to just pause and then answer.
Exhale. Yes.
And if you can answer so confidently, then the yes is a good one. If you can't, it's time to learn to say no.
Yeah, but it
I'm
gives you
just
that
saying.
space. It gives you that space to check in, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not only is it a beautiful pause, but it's also delivering the, you know, benefits and adding clarity to your brain, right? You're literally changing your physiological state, but also your mental state. So it gives you kind of like a twofold impact for like, okay, now I can react. You know, it gives you that space to choose your reaction versus instantaneously just having a reaction.
Well, and so you had said one of the challenges you would offer people is before you go to those external stimuluses. Can you tell me that again? We were talking this morning about that. Yeah.
So you know, what we just did was like that down regulating breath work, right? It's really inviting that sense of relaxation, that state of ease, rest and digest. But breath work has the ability to do the opposite. It's kind of almost the opposite. So up-regulating breath work, athletes use it, but what it really does is can excite this nervous system, right?
I'm going to cut you off there for a second. We're going to go back there.
Okay.
We were talking about coffee. Before you go get coffee, before you go get the alcohol. Yeah, you went into breath work.
I did.
Up there. We'll go there in a second.
Yep,
So I'm going to
okay.
repeat that question, okay?
Yep.
I don't remember how I said it, but I'm going to figure it out right now. So with regards to the pause, just like saying no, we were talking this morning, just chatting before we got in here about some of the external stimuli that we all rely on in our daily lives. Can you repeat that again? Because I think it's important for our listeners to hear.
Yeah.
We have so much reliance on some of this external stimuli, but in essence, I feel pretty good after doing that just short little stint of breath work. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so you know, we all kind of get that mid-afternoon slump at 2 o'clock, or you know, maybe it's sluggish getting out of bed. We've got times too where we're looking to do the opposite of relax, right? A lot of times we'll be reaching for a coffee. We'll be looking for, you know, some sort of stimulant to kind of give us that oomph that we need. But we have the tools to do that right inside of our bodies, and we don't need that. So up-regulating breath work on the other side of that down-regulating technique that we just practiced actually will excite the nervous system, right? But it's an intentional excitement. It's not like stress or anxiety-induced fight or flight, right? It's an intentional excitement of the nervous system. And so just doing a few rounds of that, just like we did the down regulating, you can find that you can give yourself that energy lift. So next time you go reaching for that coffee or you know, looking for some way to get your fix, try some up-regulating breath work and see if you don't notice that shift first, and then go from there. Because just, you know, when we're the down regulating, we're focusing on those exhales. With the up regulating, we're focusing more on getting that oxygen into the system fast and really flooding the body with that oxygen, which is what creates that sense of energy, that vitality, right? So having the tools all within yourself and not having to look externally for ways to regulate yourself, I think is really one of the most beautiful gifts that we have as a human. So
I think that people need to hear that. And so is the diaphragmatic breathing that we did earlier to set ourselves up for the down regulating, right? So when I think let's not get caught on titles.
Sure.
Down regulation basically is allowing your body the opportunity to take you from here in a chronic state of stress or anxiety or emotion or pain, anything that would be heightened, and to allow breath work to bring you down to a manageable level, right? Whereas upregulating, I'm thinking like, I'm slumpy, I'm tired, I can't get my foggy brain to work. Even sometimes I have to say, if I'm feeling a lot of lack of confidence and I'm just gonna turtle up in my room, I know a lot of people who do that, right? I know I need to go do this, I know it's the best thing for me to do, but instead I have so little ability in my own mind, I'm gonna go lay in my bed and that is all I'm gonna do. Upregulating is a breathwork practice that allows you to kind of increase the circulation, get those endorphins kicked up naturally, correct?
Yep.
And it brings you up a level when you might be feeling down here. That's what I'm hearing you say, right?
yeah, essentially. So I kind of like to look at it like this. So our bodies are like a car, right? So we're riding around in this meat suit all day, and your breath is really kind of like the gas pedal or the brake, right? So I like to think of it like the down-regulating activates your parasympathetic nervous system, brings you down into your rest and digest, where you're upregulating, you're increasing your energy into your sympathetic nervous system, excuse me, and really giving yourself that heightened ability, like stepping on the gas pedal, right? So the breath and the pace of the breath really control the speed at which we're operating. And then I think of it a little bit like when you're consciously tuning into that breath, it's like putting your hands on the steering wheel. It's like taking charge of how you're going to operate the vehicle. Like, am I going to, allow myself this relaxation? Am I going to try to pick myself up a little bit? But being intentional and really noticing what your breath is doing in the moment helps you kind of figure out, oh, maybe I am a little stressed. I'm breathing shallow. My chest is tight, versus, oh, I've got these long, slow breaths, and we're kind of slumping around and just, but yeah, I kind of like to look at it like, do I need to slow down a little bit, or would I like to pick up the pace,
Yeah.
You have both options at all times.
I love it. So teach us how to pick up the pace, because
Right.
Lord knows my exercise class loves the idea of me getting more energy.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure they do.
So let's do that. I love it.
Yes. So with the upregulating breath work, I really tend to focus more on the inhales, right? So it's more about rapidly getting that oxygen into the body, kind of flooding those cells, and allowing the CO2 to kind of build up a little bit, which sounds counterintuitive, but actually is beneficial. So for like a mid-afternoon slump that you might be feeling, a quick breath work technique for that is just sharp inhalation through the nose and just letting it fall out, but it's going to be a rapid breathe. Now, one little caveat with the upregulating breath work, people do tend to have more of a reaction physiologically to
Okay.
it. So with the down-regulating breath work, you kind of are getting into a sense of relaxation, and not many people are alarmed by that. With the upregulating breath work, it can be a little bit more jarring because people tend to feel maybe some tingling or temperature changes in their hands or feet, and that can be like, oh, something's changing, what's happening? So those are all perfectly normal reactions. None of them are harmful or dangerous, but it is just about the oxygen level changing in your blood, which is why you kind of feel that tingling or the warmth. Your circulation is improving, your blood is moving. So if you feel any of these things, that is perfectly normal. Definitely do not do this while you're driving. So if this is something you want to come back to, come back to. Upregulating breath work that will kind of energize, uplift. So, first before we start, really check in and see, how are you feeling in this moment? Are you feeling, any tension? Are you feeling sluggish? Are you feeling that brain fog that we all kind of get mid-afternoon? Check in and really be honest with yourself about where you're at right now. So with the upregulating breath work, we're gonna do a sharp inhalation and then just let the air fall out. And again, back into that diaphragm, we're gonna be kind of pushing that stomach, will be going in and out, so it'll kind of look like an accordion maybe or something, just in and out.
All right.
So we're gonna go ahead and inhale and exhale, it'll look like this. So that is the gist of it.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that even just for a few seconds too. I mean, I don't want people to feel like this has to be a long, drawn out thing, but
Do we need to set a timer? Is there a good idea to set a timer?
For most people with a beginning practice, I would say go 30 seconds if you can. That's
Okay.
a long time. For the sake of the podcast and the listeners watching, we'll just do a quick 10-second session and
Okay.
see if we feel it. But
We'll go ahead and do 10 seconds.
yes.
Because actually, could we do, I'm gonna alter you. Can we do 20 seconds?
Sure.
I feel like 30
We can
seconds.
do anything we want.
I feel like I love that. I love that. Here's why. I feel like for the first 5 seconds, I'm going to be wondering if I have boogers coming out of my ass. I really, when I watched you, I was like, I should have brought a Kleenex. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like anything that we do, right? Anything that we do as humans, we're always thinking about how do I look, even when we're in a room by ourselves, right? And we're like, if my kids come in this room, I remember one time a woman told me about this this good belly dancing move. I was brushing my teeth, and my son went by the bathroom door, and he comes back, and he looks in, and he goes, "Don't ever do that with the door open again." So I feel like for the first 5 seconds, I may be wondering if I have a booger coming in and out.
Well, not to mention it feels
totally
awkward.
inappropropriate.
Right? It feels awkward.
But that's who I am.
But you heard
Yes.
I had a little allergy action going on here too.
Yes.
So
All right. So
hopefully we'll have no snot rockets today.
however, I do love, if we could encourage our listeners, I started a contemplative practice, and it was 20 minutes of silence. Now, if you know me, you know that even 2 minutes of silence is almost like the people are checking to see if I'm dead, you know? And so 20 minutes, I was like, 20 minutes. However, Rhonda, I think it's really important that we're in a world where we're on to the next thing, we're on to the next thing, we're on to the next thing.
Always.
And I think you will agree that the most beneficial part of breath work, whether or not it be the down regulating or the up regulating, is that we do have to make a commitment of time dedication to ourselves. Yes. So if we're going to do this, let's do it for 20 seconds or your 30 seconds. Having done it before, I know 30 seconds is actually kind of a long time when you're breathing like that. When you're not having a contraction. And but I do think it's a good idea to share with our listeners that just give yourself that 10 minutes for the down regulating, and give yourself the 30 seconds for the up regulating, and do it more than 1 or 2 times, but do it consistently.
That's the key right there, consistency. It's not the duration, it's the consistency, it's the repetition, it's the getting it into your automatic processing, so that it is not something that you're struggling to think about, am I doing it right? Or are boogers flying out of my nose, right? It is just an automatic response, or it is an automatic tool that you reach to, just like stretching or anything else. It is something that you just do without thinking about it. So that consistency is very important when it comes to that.
All right, well, I'm going to set it for 20 seconds. I am going to put my hand on my chest and my belly because I feel like that's an important part. And you said in through the nose, out through the mouth, very short.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to follow you. Here we go. Seconds. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, I feel good.
I feel it in my cheeks. I feel like my face
Woo!
is warm. Yes.
Oh, you know what I feel? I feel like a little ear ringing.
Really?
Yeah, I feel a little ear ringing. I'll tell you though, can I just share?
Yeah.
And I actually would hope our listeners can go in the comments and tell us about their experiences with breath work, because I want to know how these tools are helping other people. But I have to say that the problem is that initially it was hard to breathe into my belly. So I think we need to maybe practice one more time.
Yeah. So yeah, that is really focusing on, again, and when you're exhaling, imagine drawing your stomach in, like you're sucking it in because you want to get your picture taken and you want to look skinny. It's like you're really sucking it in, and that will help it to kind of pop back out. So I focus more on when I'm doing those rapid breaths, rather than the expansion, I'm focusing more on the contraction. So the exhale.
Okay, let me see you do it.
Okay.
Maybe I was too focused on me.
So I'll put the hand here. Oh,
Yep.
I keep bumping my microphone.
It's okay.
Here and here. So
Bender effects. Okay.
and it's really
But I feel like, I feel like you almost have to practice and then set your timer.
yeah, and
Like make sure you're in it and then set your timer. Right?
that could be, or even just give yourself a few extra seconds on the timer to get adjusted. But it's a lot harder to get that diaphragmatic rhythm going when you're doing a rapid breath than when you're doing that nice slow breathing, because it's just a lot easier to focus. But the rapid breath in itself is awkward for people, so to couple that with a new breathing technique on top of it can be a little jarring. So I recommend really practicing that diaphragmatic breathing with the down regulating, the nice slow breath work first to get the muscle memory in place for the diaphragmatic breathing and getting that diaphragm contracting and expanding on cue, then moving it in. So for the upregulating, if you're not strong with that diaphragmatic breathing, if it's a chest breath, it's a chest breath. It will really it will really still work, do the same kind of thing. But that diaphragmatic breathing is really the kind of the mark that you want to aim for.
Love it. So another way that helps, and I know this from doing the fire breathing, right, with Dr. Weil, is when you're cold.
Yes.
I mean, because you feel that circulation hitting your
yes.
extremities and warming your body. It's amazing.
Yes, and I'm one of those girlies in the winter that I am always cold. I'm eternally cold. My feet and hands are popsicles at all times. So actually, that is one of the things I use it for the most, is just giving me a quick warm up, you know?
Yeah, I love it. And you're an athlete. Like, you do some incredible things. You do, in addition to being the practitioner, teaching the breath work and the sound healing, you also do jiu-jitsu, right?
And I play soccer.
And you play soccer. And what else do you do? You do, don't you do hula hooping or fire ring or something like that? Tell me about that. I want to know about that. I want to know about you.
Yes, I do. I do fire dancing, so I use a bunch of different props. I saw somebody performing one day, and I was like, I am doing that. The sound of the fire moving through the air, just like the coolest thing. So I immediately gravitated toward those people and just kind of started weekly practicing with this group. But I have a bow staff. I have a rope dart, which the bow staff and the rope dart are martial art weapons, so I was kind of naturally drawn to them.
Okay.
But I also have fans, and I even have this fun like headdress. It's a mohawk that lights on fire. But that fire and dance combination really it's very exciting because you've got the fire. So there's the element of like, you know, having to be cautious, but also the element of being able to artistically express myself through the dance. So a lot going on with that.
I bet you breath work plays a big role in that.
Oh, I will tell you, very specifically in my jiu-jitsu game, breathwork has been a literal game changer. Because I compete a lot, and one of the things I notice is when you're training, it's one thing because you can pace yourself, but when you're competing, you're just all in, going, you know, as hard as you can. And I was gassing out in like the first 2 minutes of a match, and that is not a good place to be.
So what does gassing out mean for those of us?
Yes, completely just wiping myself out. I was exhausting myself. I was breathing heavy. I was, you know, just exerting everything I had in the first, you know, throwing it all against the wall right away. So what breathwork helped me do is to pace myself and my output level, right? So when I was focusing more on my slow, steady breathing, I noticed that my physical exertion was kind of on par. It was more balancing out what I was doing instead of just all at once. But the breath work really helped me not only to kind of be more aware, but just slowing my breath in general made it so that my stamina was much improved, very much improved. And even with soccer too, with all the running that you do, you know, if I feel myself starting to get a little bit like, whew, I will just intentionally slow my breath down and keep it at a slow pace as much as I can. Even if I'm running, I can still slow my breath down. So yeah, it has been an absolute game changer from the side of, you know, training and competing and all of those things.
One of my favorite reads, and I just shared that with you today,
Yes.
Into the Magic Shop. Dr. Doty actually talks about how down-regulated breathing helps him get through those intense hours of neurosurgery where he is in the most complicated areas of a person's brain and keeps his mental clarity on focus. And what I love about hearing that is, again, this simple tool that we are all innately equipped with that makes a difference in our personal success.
Yes.
Not just calming us down, but really centering us and bringing us to our strongest self.
Yeah.
It's amazing when I share with individuals the tongue position on the roof of the mouth.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
And so, one of the things that I did when I was first introducing the way to healthy living to everybody was I would get people to come over to my table at these booths that I was at, and I had little stones and I taught them centering breath and I taught them some of those things. But I actually taught them, and I love doing it with fifth graders because it's fantastic. When you go up against someone, shoulder to shoulder, and you put your tongue out between your two teeth, and I want everybody to just practice this. So you get next to somebody, shoulder to shoulder, and maybe we'll get a little video out there on the Facebook page, and you push when your tongue is out, and then you push when you have put your tongue on the top of the roof of your mouth, a little back from your teeth. No matter how athletically built you are, you cannot budge me. And I love that because combined with breath work and that tongue position, you are at your strongest mental and physical being. It's incredible.
Yes.
So with upregulating, you talked about downregulating, increasing your athletic endurance, and helping your performance as an athlete, obviously. How do you find upregulating, or what applicable areas do you use that besides warming yourself or energy? Is there anything that you do in upregulating breath work that is directly related to your athletic performance?
So one of the things that I love about it is you talked about the mental clarity, and that's something that I find, like, as my neurons are getting excited, as my blood is circulating, as my heart rate is increasing, I'm still able to be in control of that process. So like the mental clarity, the brain fog just kind of goes away. And I find that with both, but I find with when I'm doing the upregulating breath work, it's usually in preparation for something, or just to kind of uplift a little bit. But it also helps me to I feel like it gives me greater capacity for breath, right? Like, so even if I'm doing these sharp inhalations, obviously I'm not breathing like that throughout a match. I'm not doing the breath work technique throughout the match. But I notice that after I do that, I have more lung capacity. I feel like it's not as much of a strain on my body. I feel like I've kind of stepped up a level, so to speak, in terms of like, now I'm physically ready and mentally ready, and it kind of ties the two together for me, right? But the mental piece is a really big one, and we didn't really touch on it too much, but that mental clarity that comes from breath work, I think is, you have to experience it really to fully appreciate it, but I'm telling you, it is real. The effects have shown themselves to me time and time again, and I can't deny them. So I invite people to try for themselves and really give it a fair shake. I mean, it's the consistency thing, right? Do it more than one time. One time is not going to fix anything. It's not going to. It may in the moment calm you down, but without kind of regularly harnessing that, you're really robbing yourself of the opportunity to kind of take the reins and decide how you're going to feel that day,
We did talk about physical, right?
Yeah.
And we saved the best for last. That's why we didn't talk about it.
Yes.
The mental clarity is everything.
Right.
It is the why behind what we do, and it is also the why not behind why we don't, right? And I think what people really need to start to recognize within themselves is that these simple little shifts in things that we can do and no one even knows we're doing, right? You can do this breath work in the bathroom, you can do it in the car, you can do it wherever you have that space. Although for consistency, I think, Rhonda, it's good practice to put it in somewhere. Make sure you've got a spot where you're getting it in. How has it changed your response system? Like, if you could just give me an example of who you were pre-breath work, reactive Rhonda, and who you are post-breath work, responsive Rhonda, because I think that would resonate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I discovered breath work and really just even understanding that I had these capabilities within my body, I was constantly looking outside of myself for a solution. I was constantly looking for, something to combat. And one thing that I've come to realize through creating this centering within myself through the breath work is that most of the suffering that I was doing was caused by me and my thoughts, right? I'm either focusing on the past, I'm focusing on what hasn't happened yet and worried about something that may or may never ever happen. And those thoughts are really what dictated how I felt as a human. And a lot of the thoughts that I was having, especially about myself, were not nice thoughts. And so I would literally I would ruminate and I would think about things and that's all I did. And so I was constantly in reaction to what was going on in my brain. So when I started the breathwork practice, I noticed that one of the first things I noticed is like, I don't have a song playing in my head right now. Or, oh wow, I'm not thinking about what's for dinner. Oh wow, I actually had that silence in my brain for the first time because I was shifting the focus from the thoughts down into my body, creating coherence between my mind and my heart, right? Giving myself the space to turn inwards and giving myself the safety to do so, right? Making it feel safe. So doing it while it's uncomfortable, it's kind of like what I tell my kids, do the uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable, right? Just keep doing it. If nothing else, it will become easier, right? It will become something you stress about less. So I just kept with it, and I was not perfect in the beginning, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that it was making an impact on the way I felt about myself and the way that I related to myself, because I was really giving myself that space, giving myself a place to turn, giving my mind something else to churn on besides these crazy thoughts that I allow run through my head. So now, because of the breath work, stressful situations, piece of cake. And I know that's because instead of instantly reacting, I'm giving myself the space to turn in, to tune in, and to figure out what's really going on with me before my response or my reaction that is usually inappropriate anyway. So really giving myself the power and control to decide how I'm going to show up.
I love that. I was going to ask you, right, if you were going to share something with our viewers about breath work that you would want them to take away, but I feel like what you just said is the most important part of not just for women, but for all people, right? How much of our life is spent on the desire for what was or what could have been, rather than responsively bringing us to great mental clarity, which is quite honestly the benefit, I think you would agree, to breath work.
Yes.
So it is so amazing that you gave us that. And I just want to bring back and do one more practice of that down regulating, because I do love the up regulating. I think I think it plays an active role in getting our energies up, and maybe do it before the coffee. I also love doing upregulating breath before a difficult conflict.
Yes.
Now, many people, Rhonda, would say, oh, well, I would have thought you would have downregulated. When you need confidence, doing them in tandem, so bringing yourself up energetically and then bringing your mental endurance into a sustainable model, together is an amazing tool to harness.
Yes.
Because when you do the upregulating breath, you remind yourself that you have physical power. You get that tingling, you get that warmth, you get a little taller, you feel a little better. And then when you do the down regulating, like the 4-7-8 breathing or just your 4-8 breathing for 4 cycles, you now take that power and you figure out what you're going to do with it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so it is so cool. So let's just go and do that one. Let's do 2 breaths together. Let's remind everybody about checking in. Let's kind of close it, because in our next episode, we talk about a lot of the different tools and I give even more tools. But I really kind of want to close it up with the very simplest tool. If you do nothing at all, but you were excited about anything we share in this limited series, do consistent breathwork practice. So let's take it home with that, shall we?
Yes. So this would be a very simple practice that literally anyone can benefit from, and there's not a lot to remember. So the 4-8 breathing I like because there's just not a lot to remember. And if you don't remember the numbers, that's okay. Just make sure that your exhale is twice as long as the amount of time you spend taking air in, and you'll be winning. But before you start, really do yourself a favor and check in. Do that mental inventory head to toe. See what it is that you're feeling in your body that may be causing, that tension, or that may be signaling that there is something further going on, right? So just kind of check in, notice anything that comes up for you, feel throughout your body. Do you have any pain? Do you have any tension? Or are you relaxed? Are you feeling, pretty good? Just, take an inventory and see where you're at. And then start to notice your breath, right? Don't have to change anything right now, but just notice. Are you breathing deeply? Do you have more of a rapid breath? You notice, where do you notice in your body that your breath is circulating? Where do you notice? Do you notice it in your nose as you inhale? Do you notice it in your chest as it expands, or your belly if you're doing the diaphragmatic breathing? Is it the sound of your breath that you can connect with? There's so many different aspects that you can just kind of check in and really feel that breath in your body. Once you've noticed what your breathing is like now, we can start to shift the pattern slightly. So we'll go ahead with that inhale through the nose. 2, 3, 4, and then the release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That nice slow exhale. And the inhale through the nose. And exhale. Inhale. And letting go. It's as simple as that.
That is awesome. And I cannot thank you enough for being here.
This is my pleasure.
When we come together again in our next podcast series discussion, we just want to give you a lot to think about, but encourage you between now and then to practice that consistent breath. Even if it's just taking that pause before you answer a question that is difficult to answer, or you step into a room you're not necessarily comfortable with, connect to yourself through breath. That's the most important part. And as you do that, become more regular and consistent with that. You can add some time, like maybe that 30-second upregulating breath at times that you're feeling a little fatigued or foggy, or that 10-minute breathing practice where we bring ourselves down on a daily basis. And maybe that happens midday, or when you find yourself losing control or not connecting to yourself and getting very reactive. Just encourage you to make that regular practice. And I appreciate your time and joining us here on the podcast. Thank you, Rhonda.
And thank you for having me.